The death of a beloved character is one of the fastest ways to draw emotion from a viewer. We build bonds with them, feel their wishes and desires like our own, only to watch it all be ripped away. But it can be even more tragic. In the service of ideals, the protection of others as a last-ditch effort of hope, or even more, sometimes a character chooses to end their own life. Today we're going to be looking at those situations and exploring some of the most impactful sacrifices in anime. As always, this is just my personal list and won't cover everything, and I'll be skipping some more obvious favorites that I've covered before. And naturally, it'll also have spoilers, but the chapters feature will let you skip any sections you want to avoid. With that said, let's get into it. It's no secret that we love Madoka Magica here, but one area the channel's been lacking is with Kyoko, one of the few characters we haven't covered in depth. Today we'll correct a bit of that, but don't worry, there will be more for her in the future. But hers is the simplest story in Madoka Magica. In their world, wishes are real, however they come with a cost. In exchange for granting one desire, they must live the rest of their lives as magical girls, one who fight witches to prevent evil from befalling the world. Although everything isn't as it seems. The one they make these contracts with, Kyubei, preys on them, using their adolescent mental state so they make an ill-thought-out wish, and neglecting to tell them that magical girls themselves eventually become the witches. The energy this transformation releases is used to prevent the heat death of the universe, a deal Kyubei coldly sees as a fair trade for a few human lives. Kyoko's wish was for her father, a local priest, to gain a following once more after losing his for preaching from the heart. Her wish is granted, but like every wish made for someone else's sake, it backfires. She misunderstood her father. Learning that his newfound following is fake, he despairs. His words have meant nothing at all. The fact he was speaking from the heart changed nothing. Eventually, he ends his own life after killing Kyoko's mother and sister, leaving her as the only one alive. She's naturally forever changed by this, outright refusing to help anyone but herself, a fear she developed from her wish's intent. This builds off of the legacy of another character, Mami, who stresses that the safest way to wish is selfishly. Kyoko serves as a simple yet striking example, as her good intent becomes selfishness itself, affording her the ultimate safety. Not only does it keep her alive in harsh fights, but it also protects her mental state. She can never be hurt by a mismatch of desire again. That is until she meets Sayaka Miki, a girl who exists on the opposite side of belief. Sayaka, for her own deep and tragic reasons, seeks to use her very being itself to help others no matter how much it costs her. Kyoko initially responds to this with anger, hateful that someone so childish in belief was contesting her. However, the feud eventually turns into a sort of friendship. While they're never outright cordial, Kyoko opens up to Sayaka, attempting to use her story to prevent someone new from falling to despair. She wants Sayaka to embrace selfishness, and she refuses. Subtly, Kyoko has begun trying to help someone once again. Eventually, Sayaka falls to despair exactly as Kyoko said. Still intent on helping her new friend, Kyoko does the only thing she can against the powerful witch Sayaka becomes. She uses the power of her own life to end Sayaka's suffering. Kyoko's arc is short and simple, but one that's absolutely necessary to build the wonderful Madoka Magica world. Her sacrifice is the moment where two beings become one, where the lines between all things are blurred. One who sought to help, and one who was seeking only selfish desires. They swap places, but then end in the same place. Intent has changed nothing. There's no guarantee with intentions whether from a wish or not, and we can't escape the pull of this world and the people who make it up. Living just to avoid pain is the same as already being dead. Something it took Kyoko all the way up until her moment of sacrifice to realize. This moment is not just building a tragedy, but one of the greatest series ever to take a deeper look at. An endless wealth even from the character with the second shortest stay. It's also one of the only 12-episode series I considered for this list, a testament to how powerful the moment and the series overall truly is. Steins Gate is a unique take on some common aspects of anime. Following the self-proclaimed mad scientist Hoenn Kiyoma, or more accurately Okabe Rintaro, the story revolves around his laboratory and the lab members he gathers. They inadvertently discover the ability to send data back in time, an essential form of time travel, as they can even use it to send consciousness backwards. There's an obvious disconnect here, a bunch of weird kids messing around who discover time travel? It seems so odd, but that's on purpose. It stresses just how much of science is happy accidents and how dangerous it can be. Because Okabe and crew invented this time machine, the world spirals out of control, careening towards the tyrannical rule of CERN, who steal the time machine from the future gadget lab and kill Okabe's longest friend Mayuri, the very reason he puts on a mad scientist act to begin with. Okabe is able to fix their mistakes, undoing all of his changes in the past and returning to the original timeline. The issue, however, is that his newfound love, Makase Kurisu, dies in that world. Torn between saving his best friend and his new love, Okabe continually relives the same few days, trying and failing to stop Mayuri from dying each go around. Kurisu is, in contrast to the rest of them, an actual scientist, published at an exceptionally young age. This is why her sacrifice is so strong to me. It's the resigned triumph of the human spirit against a chaotic universe which science tries to decode. She eventually learns the truth from Okabe, the only one whose memories persist through timeline changes, and tells him he has to return to the original world rather than torturing himself endlessly, even if it means she dies. Despite often being the coldest and the most focused on actual science, Kurisu makes the most emotional plea of the entire series, contrary to the surface of her character. She understands the nature of the universe the best of any of them, and knows the only way to save someone she loves from mental torture is to die. One cannot deny the universe its will. What they have is something that was never supposed to be. What stresses this even more is the mixture of desperation and hope in her words. She pleads with Okabe, stating that maybe the real version of someone is collected in every timeline, so she won't really be dead, even if he never gets to see her again. Here, she makes science something akin to God, seeking to find peace in a world we don't truly understand. She embodies the wishful nature of science when it meets the human spirit. It's the exact moment where the crushing weight of the universe seeks to destroy the essence of humanity, and humanity does the only thing it can do. It accepts the path before it and makes peace with the world around it, which it's trying to discover. And all of this takes place in one of the few true fights between Okabe and Kurisu. Normally they bicker playfully, each holding feelings for the other, but too embarrassed or prideful to admit it. Finally, the surface is broken and we witness what's underneath, all the humanity I was just praising. They open up about something that does matter, just as they're torn apart by the will of the universe. To me, this is the series. It's these moments where hope is found in despair, where God and science become one, where fate crushes us, but we continue anyway. Okabe submits and returns to the original timeline, once again hiding his feelings under the mad scientist persona, content to live on as the sole one to remember their friend Kurisu, the scientist who fought to save the day through humanity. Fate Zero is a prime example of an anime that took a select few core ideas and presented them in the most adept way possible. Most notably, the series' idea of leadership, which intentionally reverses from common thought. Saber is the traditionally ideal leader. The heroic spirit of King Arthur, she believes a leader exists to serve the people. If a sacrifice needs to be made, the leader should be the one to make it. However, she feuds with another heroic spirit, Ryder or Alexander the Great, over this ideal. He believes that a leader should be selfish and greedy because a leader should be someone who inspires people to be like them and who could desire to be like Saber, the path of a martyr. And if someone is constantly saving their people, what will happen when that leader is gone? All that will be left is a people who can't exist on their own, which is what happened as Saber's kingdom crumbled. If one acts on their own impulses, though, takes what they want, they have the potential to unite others under a desire to take their place, to become even stronger, maybe even become a greater leader. They must live without regrets to honor the lives which created their paths. Anything else would be a disrespect to those who followed them. These are the ideals of Ryder's character, the ones he follows to his death. Facing off against the overpowered Gilgamesh, Ryder gives it his all. He calls upon the skill which proves him a true leader, named Army of the King, where he can call all those who fought with him in the past to do so once again, resulting in a massive army. Gilgamesh defeats them all without even taking a step, crumbling the very source of Ryder's power. Knowing he faces certain death, Ryder continues forward anyway for two reasons which entangle to become one: his master, Velvet, and the ideals of leadership. A young man who snuck his way into the Holy Grail War, Velvet and Ryder grow closer over the series as he matures from a cowardly child into a true contender. Ryder completes this growth by sticking true to what he always has. As he believed, a ruler must lead by example. He asks Velvet to flip the script, serving as his retainer, one who will carry on his will, before continuing to a doomed fight. Ryder embodies his ideals to such an extent he'll die to see it respected. To inspire someone under his rule to be stronger, to prevent him from receding back into cowardice, and to spring him into the future, Ryder knows he must lead by example of courage. His sacrifice is for nothing more than this ideal, which is why it's so powerful to me. It begins to cap off Fate Zero's war on leadership, proving Ryder not as someone simply chasing their pleasure and justifying it, not as someone cruel and detestable, not as someone who's only seeking their past glory, but as someone who's genuinely believing in his ideals of leadership. In a world full of backstabbers, cheaters, and abusers, he stands as an unlikely hero, one destined to die because he lived the kind of ideals they all lacked. Ryder is also one of the most memorable side characters in anime, from his humorous demeanor like his conquest shirt he wears and his amazement at the modern world, to the unsubtle yet heartwarming words he leaves with Velvet as they become the unlikeliest of friends. Seeing him charge profoundly into his death isn't just a matter of ideals, but one of humanity, watching as two friends from completely different backgrounds are torn apart because of the war they met within. There was only one way things would ever end. All Ryder could do was to do it proudly. There's not much more you can ask for out of a series than Vinland Saga. One of my friends recently started watching it, and that led to me watching the entire series again in a single day because yes, it is that good. It makes a few scenes I would genuinely consider calling perfect, mostly because it takes two extremes, aggressive violence and deep consideration, and merges them into one beast, a series where philosophical ponderings emerge from endless death. It pits humanity against the worst of itself and asks, why? One of those scenes comes at the very end of the original run, where Askeladd enacts one last devious plan to outwit the cruel King Sven. A ruler who's condemned his own son to death for political gain, Askeladd seeks the king's death because Sven made an impossible proposition. By choosing to invade Wales, he forces Askeladd to pick between betraying the crown and thus endangering the Canute, the prince Askeladd has risked everything on, or his homeland for which he's fought his entire life. Naturally, he makes a third option. He feigns madness and beheads the king, declaring himself to be the rightful ruler of Britannia, descended from Artorias, a legend his sick mother raised him on. Here he finds success at the cost of his own life. What makes this especially fitting is it's the perfect encapsulation of his character. Not only does it exemplify his extreme dedication to the ideals he's lived for, but also the ones he's discarded to do so. Askeladd wasn't an honest man. He was a pirate taking on jobs which provided the most money, a scoundrel who never respected the honor ascribed to combat, a man who would even slaughter an entire village to survive. But these were all unideal things he did in search of an ideal world. The money supported him into the future for this, his lack of honor functioned the same, and the death he caused was in service of defending a ruler who would prevent such things. He was the worst man he could be in service of something greater, and in his final moments the cost of his actions finally reaches his own life. Unlike many others, he doesn't back down and present a coward who would abandon their definition. He stands firm and defends what he always had. He was also a schemer. His greatest successes relied on the implementation of shady plans. This moment is no different. In feigning madness, he prevents the blame from befalling Canute, while also providing the platform for the prince to achieve his own ideals. The king is gone and Canute steps up. He secures this by being the one to kill Askeladd, who allows himself to be done in to present the young man as a strong ruler. In one fell swoop, Askeladd moves their plan forwards, leaps and bounds. However, this is also the tragedy of it. Canute has resolve, but is young and inexperienced. In a series which has already shown that good intentions can be outweighed by the weight of crushing reality, we have to wonder, where will things go from here? Canute isn't ready, and the former king espoused that the crown corrupts. Will he meet the same fate of falling to evil for his ideals as his father? And this is where the technical prowess of this moment shines. King Sven was the true bad guy of the series. Everyone else rested somewhere in between before coming together in one against him. But now there's only a void. The series completely subverted everything it set up in order to pave the way for something even greater. Will Canute become the villain is the thought which remains. This moment is everything Vinland Saga: violence, philosophy, the distance between father and son, the misinterpretation of will, and even more I wish we had the time to cover. Gurren Lagann isn't a 10 out of 10 anime like our two spots, even the one just before this, yet it's here at the top of the list. And there's a damn good reason for that. It's because it's Gurren Lagann. The series could make a robot feel hype for the first time, let alone what it does to people. Its best moments may not cover as much as another series, but they take what they're about and turn it up to 11, crafting the essential scenes for anything from inspiration to today's topic of sacrifice. Catan is our subject. A secondary character, he spends most of the series bolstering those above him. He follows Kamina despite being an exceptionally similar man because he sees something different in him. He does the same with Simon later once he's come to see he lacked that special something, and by the end of the series he reaches the truth. There is no special something. There are just moments and people who rise to them. There is only human will. And letting one person lead that will every time is only a detriment. This is the series' core theme about leadership, where it presents a generational point. We all step up and take our turn, sometimes leading, sometimes following, but always believing. Leaders require followers, and followers are strongest with their leader. The cycle of belief maintains them. This is something the older generation all recognizes. Originally winning a great victory and reclaiming the surface of the human world, they've developed the ability to fight, but not to lead. As such, they struggled with their newfound roles in a time of peace. Catan recognized this most of all and resigned himself with hope to be a protector of the peace, not a leader of it. The future is best left to the ones who will exist within it. So the older generation begins to embody this idea. When war finds them again, as an interstellar force seeking to crush all burgeoning life sets its sights on humanity for growing too fast, the older generation plays their parts and protect the future. Many of Team Daiguren's side characters throw themselves to the void to save, or try and save, someone else. Particularly, they try and save Gimme and Dari, the two youngest pilots. Catan becomes the most full picture of this, where he fails to make a communist-style speech, bemoaning his own inability to speak like the man, but still stepping up to the plate anyway. Trapped in ultra-dense space, the only way to free humanity's flagship is by a suicide mission to destroy the source of this space. After initially appearing to fail, Catan charges forward without any of the protection which should be necessary to survive. In line with another core idea of Gurren Lagann, he survives the impossible on will and fighting spirit alone, what they call spiral power. He uses his own body to destroy the obstacle, managing to give an inspirational speech like Kamina only at the very end. In one fell swoop, Catan begins the thematic wrap-up of the series. He shows that anyone can be a Kamina given the right moment, while also proving how dangerous and taxing it can be with the ultimate sacrifice. He sticks with his purpose to the bitter end, using his spirit the best he can for himself and the future alike. He found peace in a world which was changing under him, and did all he could. What really pushes it to 11 though is his final words. Simply put,
"So this is the power of the spiral. Not bad at all."
The series built on loud, boisterous moments isn't doing so just for hype, it's doing so because those exceptionally extreme highs make the lows hit even harder. While there's many throughout the series, for me this one has always hit the hardest. In a series of memorable characters, let's not forget Catan and his sacrifice. And that does it for my personal list of anime's best sacrifices. As I said, there's definitely some popular ones left off of here, but there's some that if I included them, they'd only be me giving you a watered down version of a video I made before, so I opted not to do that today. Now, the common thread between every entry on this list is they were much later into the series. You'll see a lot of anime that open with a mentor's death or something similar that kicks off and acts as the motivation for the series. What I like about these moments is they more wrap up a character or stress the pre-existing motivations of someone else rather than creating a new one. They exist at the end of the series because we need to develop relationships with these characters. We need to see how they impact the world around them, and then a bit of what it's like once they're gone. It may seem a bit rudimentary and basic, but I do these lists and different things as kind of a guide for making stories for myself in the future, to point out things that work, things that didn't work, examine them in the context of the story, and try to find a common thread that really makes them work. You'll notice I mentioned here a lot of characters that do thematic wrap up for the series, and I think that's a very strong way to do a sacrifice, like with Ryder or Catan, showing characters who sacrifice themselves for those ideals and what they've come to embody really helps make a series feel that much more powerful, mixing genuine care for a character with what the series was actually about. And with that being said, I would love to hear the other moments you had in mind. Yes, because it helps the algorithm and pushes the channel up because of engagement, but also because it helps create that guide, seeing other moments that you liked, or what you thought of these ones, what I might have gotten wrong about them, or other things you noticed between them all, or other moments that really help craft a strong series. So be sure to let me know down below, and maybe we might even make another list if there's enough that people would really like to see. I'm just kind of winging it with these list videos, so never quite know where they're going to go, but I can feel myself starting to ramble, so I'll just mention there's important links in the pinned comment, Twitter, Discord, Twitch, which will eventually revive, but most importantly, Patreon, where these lovely people above me get their name in videos by supporting me directly. I suck at outros, so I'll just say thank you for watching, and I hope I'll see you again soon.